of the 2020 candidates have been marking Pride Month with social media posts and appearances at events. Many of them will also participate in a forum on LGBTQ rights in October at UCLA. But the candidates will get a chance to address the issues before then if the topic comes up during the first set of debates. This comes as a CBS News poll shows that 84% of Americans believe there has been progress in the last 50 years when it comes to ending discrimination against gays and lesbians. Joining me now is the chair of the LGBTQ caucus for the Democratic National Committee, Earl Fowlkes. He's also the founder of the Center for Black Equity. Earl, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Well, it is a big election year any way that you slice it. So let's first begin with the first debate set for tomorrow.
Yes.
What questions about LGBTQ rights would you like to see the candidates focus on and specifically answer?
I would like to have the candidates talk about LGBT equality, and especially when it comes to transgender men and women serving in the militaries. I think it's a very important issue for our community. And also the funding for HIV/AIDS. HIV/AIDS still continues to be a problem in communities of color, especially for African American and Latino men. And funding is still a crucial, especially for prevention and for care and services.
We've seen some candidates already release specific plans, like Beto O'Rourke, Kirsten Gillibrand. How do you feel about those plans calling for greater equality? And do you feel as though there are other candidates that have also submitted plans that you think that you're in support of?
Well, I have not seen all the candidates' plans because we have a great deal of candidates, but I'm withholding judgment until I see all of their plans. But I know that every one of the candidates, to my knowledge, have supported LGBTQ rights, and that's a very important step for the Democratic nominee.
So overall, you feel as though the candidates have done a good job embracing the community.
Yes.
Is there a candidate that you've been following maybe more closely than others?
I certainly would not be able to say that at this point because I have not heard from all the candidates, and I want to give each candidate an opportunity to express themselves and air their plans for our country and for our community. So I'm going to wait until after the debates to decide that. Well,
maybe you could just give a little bit more insight on Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg. He is the openly gay candidate, the first in this past month. He's had a little bit of backlash from the Black community as a response to the shooting that we saw in South Bend, Indiana. He's been accused of not really being empathetic. Do you feel, or have you heard anyone's response to that situation, how it's been handled?
I think he has a very difficult job being a mayor of a city that has issues with policing. I think he's not the only mayor who has that problem. I think he's going to have to assure the citizens of South Bend of his sincerity in making certain that justice is carried through. And I think he needs to have time to weigh the facts before judgment is passed on him.
So we have some new numbers in for our CBS News poll. It shows that 69% of Americans are not ready to elect a gay or lesbian president. That's an improvement, though, from 2006 when 91% were opposed. What do you see when you look at those numbers?
Well, you know, if you think about the same-sex marriage, majority of Americans at one point opposed same-sex marriage. And then same-sex marriage came to being, and the majority of those Americans now support same-sex marriage. I think it's a matter of time before it becomes a normal thing that an LGBTQ candidate can run for president. I think it's a good step. I think he has a good opportunity to express his plans for this country, not just as an LGBTQ American, but as an American.
And what is your organization doing for Pride Month, and how are you reflecting on 50 years, which is hard to believe the time just flies on Stonewall riots?
Well, my organization, we are the umbrella organization for 55 LGBTQ Black Prides around the world. And of course, we're participating in Stonewall. And this is amazing that we've come so far in the 50 years. We have a lot further to go, especially when you look at transgender women of color, the violence that they're suffering. We made progress, and we've made a lot of steps towards equality and visibility, and Pride is about visibility. But I think in the same token, we have to look at the issues that they're facing. There are people who are still not being able to be themselves, and people are subject to violence, especially trans women of color, and we have to find a way of resolving that violence.
And I hope sooner rather than later.
Definitely.
Earl Fowlkes, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.